Hi everyone, this is audio for sections 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6. This is Introduction to Problem Solving, which is basically word problems. In word problems, there are 4 steps you want to cover. Number 1 is obviously understanding what the problem is asking. So the first goal is to read and reread the problem multiple times. The more you read it, the more information you'll be able to pick out as pertinent or not. Number 2, choose the variables that represent your unknown number. So once you know what you're trying to find, you have to pick a variable. It doesn't matter which letter you pick. It can be X, it can be Y, I don't care, it can be a V for all it matters, as long as you have something that represents an unknown number. If possible, construct a drawing. So we will show examples, and from class previously we did examples about making the deck and having the area. That helps to draw a picture of it. Finally, figure out a solution and then double check it. Second one, after you understand the problem and you know all your pieces, you need to translate it. So you need to take that information from words and make it an equation. Put numbers to it. Once your equation is set, you solve the problem. So we've been solving for X the last week, so that's the exact same process. So you solve for your variable. And finally, you interpret. So that is double checking, make sure you got the right answer, and making sure you know what you're trying to find and you found the right question. An example of that, whenever we are looking at word problems, especially when they're basic like this first one, it is very important to be aware of the commas. The commas separate the terms that are being asked. So I like to highlight, as you know, so I have twice a number, so that's twice a number that we don't know, that's our unknown, added to 7 is the same as 3 subtracted from the number. So we have 2 numbers in here, that means we have 2 variables, but they're exactly the same. So they will be represented by the same thing. I'm pulling down my information and I write my equation. So I read it, I understand what I'm trying to find. Now I translate it into numbers. So I have twice the number, so 2x added to 7 plus 7 is the same as, is always equal, 3 subtracted from the number, so x minus 3. From here, I take that equation, and now I need to solve it. So I need to combine like terms and solve for my variable. I subtract x from both sides. I pull down my information. So I have x plus 7 equals a negative 3. My next step is still to get the variable by itself. So I would subtract 7 on both sides. Remember, when you have 2 negatives, they become the same sign, you add them together. So the only time it ever changes is in multiplication. If you're not multiplying, this becomes adding, you keep the sign, x equals a negative 10. This is a similar problem. Here it is highlighted again. So twice the sum of a number and 4 is the same as 4 times a number decreased by 12. So I know where my equal sign is because that's where my yellow is the same as. When you see twice the sum of a number and 4 without any commas, that means parentheses. So you're going to have 2 times the sum of a number, so x plus 4 equals 4 times the number minus 12, or decreased by 12. From here we solve. We distribute. After we distribute, we do the math. So we have 2x plus 8 equals 4x minus 12. Now we need to combine like terms. So we subtract the x's, we move the 12 over, we get 2x equals 20. And if this is confusing, ask me and I can break it down a little bit better. Divide by 2 on both sides and you get x equals 10. It doesn't matter how you write it, because no matter what, I know that x is equivalent to the number 10. So when I plug in 10, I should get the correct answer on both sides. Here's one that we drew the picture from earlier today. So this is a lot of information. We are just looking at the middle sentence because that's where our main information is. We know based on the reading that we have an isosceles triangle, so I'm going to draw a triangle. I know that angles 1 and 2 are going to equal the same, because if you see the bottom of the red sentence, it says 2 equal angles. So I know the 2 equal angles are the same. And at the top of the red, I know the third angle is 97.5 degrees more than the original angle. So that means I have to take the original angle and add 97.5 degrees. From here, I'm going to take that information and I'm going to solve the problem. So I put in my first angle, my second angle, the third angle, which is x plus 97.5. And then I know, just based on common knowledge, that every triangle is going to equal 180 degrees. Okay, no matter what, it's always the same. I combine my like terms, and now my problem looks simplified. And then I solve for x. So I have to subtract 97 from 0.5 from both sides. And then I divide by a 3. When I complete my math, you should have got x equals 27.5. Example 1. This was when we worked on the deck in class. So we're looking at the entire square footage, so the area of a deck. So I'm first going to draw a picture. Most decks are considered rectangles, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use a rectangle and I'm going to plug in my numbers. I know the width is 14 feet and I'm trying to find the length. Okay, I'm going to take this information and I'm going to plug it into my equation. Now, I told you guys in class that the equations most of the time will be given to you. Just be aware, so you don't necessarily have to memorize them. I start plugging in my numbers. So I know the area, because area is always square feet, will be 168. I plug that in. Okay, so here it is. Then I'm looking for the length, because it asked me to figure out the length, and I know the width is 14 feet. Now I'm going to take away the numbers and just have the letters and just have my numbers. So I have 168 equals L, which is my variable, or the thing that I don't know and I'm trying to find, times 14. When you multiply, they're being married, you need to divorce them. You divide by 14 on both sides because you want to get the L by itself. Okay, 14 cancels out, and you get L equals 12 feet. So I know that the length of my deck that is being built needs to be 12 feet long to fit the entire 168 square feet total. All right, so for temperature I will give you the information, okay, and you will always be given either the Fahrenheit or the Celsius, and you solve from there. In this equation, it gave us the Fahrenheit. The rest of the information is just telling us where we are. We don't care. It doesn't matter where we are just trying to solve. Okay? Now, one thing that will help is when you can, change your fractions to a decimal. It makes math a little bit easier because I know a lot of people get nervous when they start seeing fractions. So I'm going to take that 9/5 and I'm going to divide 9 divided by 5, and you can do that on the calculator, and you'll get 1.8. So it's both in pink so you can see where it's connected. My Fahrenheit, I was told, was 77 degrees, so I'm going to just plug that in. Now I solve for the Celsius. I solve for C. I'm going to subtract 32 on both sides and then divide by 1.8, and you will get Celsius of 25 degrees. There was a lot of words on this page, and I really only needed one number. So make sure you're aware of what those numbers are that you need. When we're using words, okay, this helps you just reorganize the equation. This is not necessarily something you have to do, but it's just for those of you who don't like to do extra steps with numbers. This is how you can eliminate extra steps. So when you have, this one is for volume, and you're trying to find L. Okay, the very first step you're going to do is divide both sides by WH, because that means you get L by itself. So if I divide by WH, then I have L equals V divided by WH. From there, I would have to provide you more information. Okay, you don't have it, so your problem is done. But if you had more information, then you plug in the numbers that are represented and you solve the problem. 2.6%. Okay, when we're solving percents, remember, whenever you see a percentage, it is either a decimal, and then when you go to your total answer, it becomes an actual percent, and you move the decimal point twice. So here I have the number 22 is. So that means 22 means equals what percent of 40? So I don't know the percent, I'm trying to find it. So I'm going to have x times 40. Some of you might write it 40x. That is 100% acceptable. You're going to divide both sides by 40 to get your variable by itself. You, on the calculator, if you put 22 divided by 40, you'll get 0.55. You just move the decimal point twice, you have 55%, and that problem is done. This is a basic percentage problem. They do get more difficult. Here's one that has more words. So we got to pick out what's important. So we know that we are buying a cell phone, and it was originally $140, but there's a 20% discount. So what we need to find is how much the discount is, and then the new price. So in money, how much do you get off? How many dollars? And how much are you going to pay? All right. In order to find the discount, you're going to multiply the percent by the original price, and you have to do that first. Then in order to find the new price, you'll take the original price, which is $140, and you'll subtract it from the discount that you found in the previous problem. Here's how it will look. So on the discount, I know my percent is 20%, and I know the original price is $140. I'm going to move the decimal point 2 times to the left for my percent, so I'll have 0.2 multiplied by 140. You do that on a calculator, you'll get $28. So that tells me that I get $28 off of the original price. So then my new price, down on number 2, I have $140. I subtract by 28 because that's what I found in the previous problem. I know that I paid $112 for the new cell phone, and you're done. That's all you need to know. Remember, when you have a problem that's asking for 2 things, make sure you make it clear what your 2 answers are, because if I can't figure it out, then you're going to lose points on your test.